Hi guys, I'm going to show you how to make a rimlock style special tray in Meshmixer in 10 minutes. This special tray will also have occlusal stops so you know that your tray is seating completely every time when you want to take an impression. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is get your model and make solid. The reason you need to make it solid is that the special tray process uses a lot of difference calculations, and Meshmixer will quite often throw up an error if you don't have a solid object. Now, usually when you make solid, the default settings will lower the resolution, make it quite pixelated or voxelated. In this case, it doesn't matter because for the special tray we don't need a super accurate model. So go ahead, make the model solid, and then once you've got that solid model, copy it 3 times. As you can see, I've copied it and made it a 2mm and renamed them 2mm, 3mm and 5mm. The reason I've done that is that you can change these numbers to whatever spacing you need, but the rimlock portion will have a 1mm rim around the edge of the tray, which will lock your impression material into the tray, which means you don't need perforations, which makes the process a lot easier and less messy. The 3mm spacing corresponds to the thickness of the space between the inside of the tray and the mucosa. So if you wanted 3mm of impression material, you'd use a 3mm spacing. If you only want 2mm of impression material, you'd use a 2mm spacing and a 1mm setting to make the rimlock portion, and then 4mm for the external surface of the tray. So here we've got 5mm for the external surface, 3mm for the internal surface, which gives a tray thickness of 2mm. And obviously if you want to increase your tray thickness for whatever reason, you can alter those numbers to fit. Now once you've got those 3 copies of your shells, what you're going to do is you're going to use the offset command, or command D on a Mac. I'm not sure what I presume it's control D on a Windows computer, and you're going to use the offset command to inflate the shell by those values. So you can see on this computer I'm using a 2003 iMac with a dedicated GPU card, but it takes a little bit of time. This is the bit that takes the most time. Now if you're using a modern computer, a super whiz-bang computer, it's going to be a lot quicker. But in this case, slow computer, so it's going to take a bit of time, but I've not cropped out the time so you can see how long this takes as a real-time process. Again, don't forget to make these shells solid after you've done the offset, because that will help you with your differencing later on in the process. Once you've got your 3 shells, you need to start making some differences or some plane cuts so that we've got the right size and height of the shells. This is a little bit tricky. Best thing to do is just follow the instructions. What you're going to do is start off with the 5mm shell, the biggest shell, and you're going to use a plane cut so that you've got all of the palette showing. Now if you don't need the palette, you don't need as thick or as high a plain cut. It just depends on the purpose that you're using the tray for. If you're using the tray for a denture impression, you obviously need the whole palette. If you're just using the tray to pick up implant impression copings or impression posts, then you probably only need the teeth component. So make that plain cut wherever you need to suit the purposes that you're using the tray for. Once you've made that plain cut on that 5mm shell to give you the actual size of your special tray, we need to make a plain cut on the 3mm shell, the intermediate size shell, to give us our rimlock configuration. You're going to put that cut around about 1 to 2mm below the main size of your special tray. It's difficult to explain, so just follow the pictures and you can see where I'm making that cut. Make sure you put the cut on the correct side. You can see that when I take away the 5mm tray material, I've made the cut so that the top part, or the base part of that 3mm shell, has gone away. So it's wider where the teeth are and narrower at the base area. I'm then going to combine the 2 and the 3mm shell and make them solid again. I'm going to use this as a difference, so I need to make it solid to make sure everything works. But when I make it solid, you can see that it's not a nice crisp boundary. So before you accept the make solid, change the settings so that you've got a sharp edge preserve, and now you can see it maintains that sharp edge. This is important because when you actually make the special tray, that sharp edge is what will hold the impression. It will create the rim lock and it will hold the impression in the impression tray. I've just repeated that process so you can see the difference between a normal and a sharp edge preserve. Now go ahead and do a difference between the 5mm shell and this new solid combination shell, and this will give you your special tray. Okay, and so you can see here how we've got the special tray. You can kind of see the rim lock a little bit. It's very difficult to see because it's a nice sharp edge, but this will now hold your impression material beautifully when you remove the tray. I'm going to make a handle. Easy way to make a handle, just add a square in and resize it so it's the right shape. It's not a fancy handle, it's not a pretty handle, but it does the job, and it means you can take your tray out. Finally, make sure you combine the handle and the special tray into one STL or one object. Now I'm going to make the occlusal stops. This is not really super tricky, just a bit of fiddling around. Hide everything apart from your original made solid STL file, and then add another square and resize it so that it's the size of an occlusal stop. Move it onto the tooth that you want to. Okay, so once it's on the tooth, accept the transformation, make it solid again, and preserve the sharp edges. Otherwise you'll get a rounded solid and it really won't work very well. Copy this mesh as many times as you want for as many rests as you want, and then move them onto the teeth that you want rests. Combine all 3 of your rests into one object. It just makes the following steps a lot easier. You only have to do it once rather than 3 times. Now you're going to plane cut this object so that it doesn't stick out of the top of the model. Otherwise you just get more bits later on that you have to kind of muck around with and tidy up. And this is where the magic happens. You're going to difference the solid model from those new meshes or the rest stops, and that will give you the occlusal anatomy on the bottom of those rests, so you know it will fit really nicely. You can see the occlusal anatomy, it looks beautiful and it will fit onto the teeth. All you've got to do now is combine the new mesh or those stops with your special tray. Once it's combined, use a plane cut to chop off the excess. I like to have a little bit of the rests showing so that I know where to apply finger pressure when I'm seating the tray. And there you have it, a fully finished special tray with occlusal rest stops, rimlock design, which will hold the impression material when you pull it out, all done in 10 minutes. I hope you found this tutorial useful. There are actually other programs that can be used to make special trays. I haven't used them, and that's because I've only got a Mac and I don't have a Windows PC, and all those programs tend to be Windows based. But if you don't want to muck around with all that other stuff, this is a pretty quick and easy way of doing it. Gives you a nice solid special tray. You can alter the settings and parameters for different material thicknesses, different rimlock thicknesses. If you don't want a rimlock tray, all you would do is add a load of cylinders and difference them out of the tray, and then you'd have a perforated tray. Thanks very much.